Hi, my name is Dave and welcome to my Solidity Basics series. Here I will guide you through the fundamentals that you need to become a blockchain developer. At the end of this series, you will be able to understand how Solidity works and you will be ready to move on and learn more advanced topics to code smart contracts. So you can find all the videos on Skillshare and I left a link in the description. Please like and subscribe so more people can find those videos and start their blockchain development journey. Hi and welcome back to Solidity Basics. Today we're going to explore mappings. So mapping is a very important data type in Solidity and is actually similar to a database in a sense. So mappings are made of key to value pairs. So you will have a key with a number associated to a specific value. And if you're thinking that will be similar to arrays, it's not quite, because as we remember, arrays start from 0 and they're 0 index based, while mappings are not. They start from 1, just like it could be a database in SQL. They start from 1. So in a way, you can see it as a database, but it's on the blockchain. So looking at the basic syntax, how you will code a mapping, you will start with a keyword mapping. And then mappings parameters are inside parentheses, and we said that we have a key associated to a value. So we'll have to specify what variables, what type of variables we want to have. So let's say that we want to associate a number to a string. So we will have uint, that is a number, then the equal and bigger than, that is, it makes an arrow in this case, and the second variable type that is associated to. Then we'll need to have the visibility state and the name. So in this case, we can just call it example. And a semicolon. So this will be the basic syntax. And now we can start our contract and we'll code a little bit more examples. So the contract will start as usual with the keyword contract. We'll call it mappings. And here we go. Now let's put a mapping up. So mapping, in this case, we'll just use it, we'll just make it the same as the example, uint associated to a string. But what we want to do is that we want to associate a number, a data number, to a color. Let's say that we want to have colors. You are planning to make an app that describes and lets the player choose different colors. So you want to put it through a mapping. We can call it colors. And here we have the mapping. Now the mapping obviously is empty because we didn't put anything in it. And there are different ways to put data into a mapping. One way is a special function that we haven't seen so far. It's called a constructor function. And you can write it just with the keyword constructor, the parentheses, and the brackets. So what is a constructor function? This is defined as a special function because it only runs once at the start of the contract, when the contract is deployed. And so we can use it to, for example, associate the address that deploys the contract as the owner, or we can use it to place some standard data in it. And in this case, we can use it to fill up the mapping when the contract is deployed. So from here, how do we fill up a mapping in this case? So the mapping name is colors, and mappings also are indexed, but they just don't start from 0. So how do we define the different key value pairs? We'll put the name of the mapping, the value of the key, equal to the value that is associated with. So right now we want to have a uint the one associated with a color, with a string that in our case wants to be a color. So let's say that we put 3 of them. We do colors. The second one can be yellow. And the second the third color will be green. And by convention, we want to use double quotes for strings. So this is a simple constructor function that when we deploy the contract, it's going to fill up the mapping automatically. So let's try it out and see how it works. We can compile it with Control S. Well, I always forget to change the compiler version, obviously, so we put the last compiler version, then we compile it. Now it doesn't give any error, and let's go to deploy it. And it's been deployed successfully, so let's see how this looks. And you will see here we have our mapping called colors, and we can see it because it's public. And it receives a uint. So let's say that we want to recall what value is associated to the key number 2. Then we'll type 2, we'll call it, and we'll have yellow. If we call number 1, we'll have red, and if we call 3, we'll have green. So this is a very, very nice way to associate different data types. Right now we placed a uint associated with a string, but we can place string with strings, or we can place addresses with numbers and strings, and we'll see a few of these options later during this lesson. Now, this is one way to initialize or fill up a mapping, but we can write a function for it. Can write a function for anything, right? So let's write a function that allows us to add values, key value pairs to the mapping. So we'll start with function. We'll call it add color in this case. And we'll have to pass a few parameters, right? We have 2 parameters to pass because we want to add a key and a value. So we'll have, the parameters will be a uint that we can call index, because this will be the index of the mapping, and a string. So now this is the first time that we see how to pass a string through a function. And whenever we pass strings, we'll have to tell the function what type of memory we use. So when we type memory, it means that the parameter is going to be stored only during the calling of the function, and is not permanently stored in the blockchain. And this is the preferred way because it saves gas fees. And then we'll just type the name of the variable color. So in this function, we'll pass an index number that is going to go in this part here of the mapping, and a string with a color that is going to go on this part of the mapping. And then we can make the function public as we want to call it from outside the contract. So the principle is exactly the same that we use here. We'll type the name of the mapping. In this case, the index, instead of hard coding manually a number, we'll pass in the variable index, and it will be associated with whatever string that we pass through. So now we can compile it with Control S, compile correctly. Let's redeploy it, and we should have a function available as well. Here it is. So let's see if we call the number 3 again, and it shows up as green. Let's say that we want to add a fourth one where we can add 4, comma, and then we want to have orange instead. Then we call the function add color. It was processed correctly. So now if we call number 4, here we have orange. And well, in this case it's just a string, right? We can write really whatever we want. If I type apple, it's still gonna pass the apple because it's just a string. An interesting function is that we can basically override the previous content. So let's say I don't want to have red and number 1 anymore, but and number 1 I want to have purple. So I'll put number 1 purple, added, processed, and now if I go look up what number 1 is, now it's purple. So this is a more dynamic way to construct mappings because we can pass functions through them, right? Now, this is a good way to explain it. Now let's do something a little bit more elaborate.